it hasn't quite changed so much, even if the market may have become much bigger.
I think you brought up a very important point, that of publication politics, the agenda of publishers, as to what exactly sells. And what sells is not necessarily new knowledge or interdisciplinary knowledge or even international kind of collaborations. What sometimes sells is, as Professor Stierstoffer has said, some librarian's perspective of what is saleable or what is readable. So these are again constraints which could be overcome through the net, through the media, although these constraints do operate on the internet, on the media as well. But in print publication, they are really almost insidious kind of influences on the way people research and what they research. Or sometimes you are even told by editors, publishers, editors, as to how many syllables you can use in a particular word. And words of more than 3, 4, 5 syllables are something which some kind of people are not able to read properly. So you are encouraged not to use words of so many syllables. So those are pressures on researchers to, in a sense, angle their writing to a certain kind of audience, or to be even more frank, to dilute your research findings in a way that makes it acceptable to a wider body of readers and hence has greater publication value. So this again is something, this is a reality researchers are aware of. So what do you think? Yeah. Does it operate in Germany as well? It operates with the American market particularly in mind with us.
It does. It has the same problems in Germany, but I'd like to come back to the global perspective once again and say we've been talking about projects between India or Asia and Europe. We've been talking about a more international project with my Women Writing Home one. But what I still miss is a really global funding body. You find bilateral or
agreements, yes.
Things like that. But you say, I have a topic which I think 10 national institutes around the world would share as interesting, and they would like to pursue together. It's very difficult to find actually a funding body which is above the national or the sort of bilateral, or in our case, of course, European level. And this is perhaps something we should work for.
Although there is a small start in that direction with the EU, I think, because the EU has funding for 2 or 3 EU countries and 2 or 3 non-EU countries from the developed world. And if they come up with an interesting enough project, there could be funding for that. And of course, there are United Nations grants and fundings available for wider kind of research. But you're absolutely right saying that we need more international kind of funding to make research truly global instead of being bilateral. Like what we were talking about is the kind of research we are able to do between Indian universities and German universities and getting funding from Indian and German sources. But this is different. If you have 10 different universities from 10 different nations around the world, where are we going to get the funding? And that is something we need to think about. Administrators need to think about it, funding bodies need to think about it, so that the research has a wider application, has a greater reach, and in that sense can become truly global. What do you think?
Well, it's the two problems. Where does the money come from?
Yes.
It can only come from basically national resources, and as national resources are chronically underfunded, it is problematic to persuade national governments and governing bodies to withdraw some money into a global fund, probably. And the other question is the question of control and power over such funds. research funds are never apolitical and are never sort of innocent for pure science. Everyone working in the business knows that. So
you're right.
there will be a great reluctance of relinquishing that into the hands of...
The reins.
Well,
who holds the
whom?
reins? Purse strings.
The Pope, probably not. The WHO or the World Wildlife Fund, I don't know. There's
They do have
the
some
UNESCO,
funding.
the UNO,
They
and so
do.
on.
The UNO does.
Of course, they all do, but it's for their specific purposes.
Yes. But there are also regional groupings, such as the SAARC countries. We have a regional grouping there, and there is funding for research projects, and I think teachers and students need to be aware of these kind of SAARC funding, because we in India sometimes, Professor Chierstoffer, we tend to look too much to the West. So if it's a choice of working on a research project, a joint research project, we tend to look towards Europe, we tend to look towards the US, or even Australia or New Zealand these days, whereas what about Bangladesh? What about Sri Lanka? What about Nepal? Why don't we have joint research, more joint research projects, more joint work? So that would be regional cooperation in research, then feeding into international research. And in a global world, we'll be in ever-widening circles, the national, the regional, and then moving on to the global.
So I think that was almost something like a final statement, which I find...
No, you can have the last word.
I can have the last word. Well, my last word can only be that I am very grateful to have been able to speak on this program and perhaps encourage further cooperation between European and Asian countries, and India and Germany in particular. I found it most stimulating and productive, and I can only recommend it for repetition in many other circumstances.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful that BISAG has given us this opportunity to reach out to students and colleagues all around Gujarat, and we are very happy with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the